and about the mindset that you have to be in. He's also a retired airborne ranger and the author of many academic papers, articles, and books, including the Pulitzer Prize winning On Killing, the Psychological Cost of Learning to Kill in War and Society. Colonel Grossman, welcome to Target Talk.
Hey guys, how you doing? Truly honored to be on the show.
Well,
thank you very much.
We're so glad to have you on. You're going to be speaking at a couple of seminars here in Missouri in August 27th. You're going to be in Columbia, and then later in October you'll be down in Branson, and we'll talk a little bit about how people can sign up for those classes.
Yes.
But you know, Steve and I were just talking about this. People ask questions in the CCW class. You have really studied this, and one of the things that you say in your work is that your worst enemy is denial. What does that mean?
Well, you know, guys, the opposite of denial is acceptance. And if you truly accept, you will prepare. And the opposite of denial is preparation. We've got studies on people who do not get PTSD, and we'll talk about what happens in the heat of battle. We'll talk about slow motion time and auditory exclusion. We'll talk about tunnel vision and loss of fine motor control. And if you've been warned that these weird and wonderful things can happen in combat, then they won't blindside you. We'll also warn about the weird and wonderful things that happen after combat, that if you aren't forewarned and forearmed, can spin you down the path of PTSD. So that's an aspect of what we teach, but the actual dynamic of preparation. We study people who do not get PTSD. One of the most important factors they have, and I teach the FBI, I teach the DEA, ATF. My books are required reading at the FBI Academy. After 10 years of war, my books on killing and on combat. On killing, Pulitzer nominated, didn't win, nominated. On killing and on combat are required reading at the United States Marine Corps. After 10 years of war, if you're the kind of person who carries that gun, means you're less likely to get PTSD. You've done everything you can do, and you have mentally prepared yourself and equipped yourself. Whatever happens, your conscience is clear. Those who live their lives in denial, those, we talk about them as the sheep. I wrote the piece, The Sheep, the Wolf, and the Sheepdog. It floats around the internet. It's an extract from my book on combat. The sheep, God bless them, are absolutely helpless. They have failed to prepare themselves. They have failed to train themselves. If they're not physically destroyed, they're psychologically shattered by what happens. But the sheepdog has prepared themselves, equipped themselves, and even if all that training doesn't do it for you, the fact that you're the kind of person who would carry that gun means you're less likely to get PTSD, internal locus of control. The enemy is denial. The gift of fear. You know, I was on a TV show. They're going to shoot it about 9/11 and probably do another left-wing blindside on us. But they said, well, we don't want to have people live in fear. I said, our enemy is not fear. Our enemy is denial. Do we live in fear of fire? We have fire sprinklers, fire exits, fire alarms, fire trucks, fire drills, fire hydrants. Do we live in fear of fire? No, because we prepare for fire. We don't have to live in fear of fire, and we must prepare for violence. Your child in the classroom, your employees at the workplace are vastly more likely to be killed by violence than they are by fire. Preparing for violence in the classroom, preparing for violence in the workplace is vastly more important, statistically speaking, than to prepare for fire. We have fire sprinklers and fire extinguishers, and when the world tries to tell you there's something wrong with you because you carry a gun, take a deep breath, look at the fire hydrant, look at the fire exit, tell yourself there's nothing wrong with me because I prepare for the thing vastly more likely to harm me and my loved ones in fire. I prepare for violence. And unlike fire extinguishers and fire hydrants, violence is psychologically shattering. Another human being has chosen to do this to us. PTSD, negative psychological responses are fairly rare in response to fires and tornadoes and floods. It does happen, but it's rare and comparatively mild. But when the cause of your trauma is human in nature, the probability of a post-traumatic response is greatly increased. A human being has chosen to do this to you. That's why the sheep live in denial. It is just so hard to even conceive of the fact that somebody might try to hurt me or my loved ones. The easy answer is denial, and denial traps us. Denial spins us down the path of dying physically, and even if we physically survive, we're psychologically shattered and a little house of cards collapses on us.
And so
preparation saves you twice.
And so
preparation saves you once physically and twice psychologically. So that's what it's all about. We'll be talking in great detail about this at the Learn to Carry seminar. I train all of our military. I train the guys who went in after Bin Laden. I train the guys who flew the helicopters went in after him. I train all of our Tier 1 Spec Ops. I trained a Marine Battalion just last Friday at Camp Pendleton. I trained 1,000 Marines who are fixing to punch out to Afghanistan. I train whole battalions and brigades. I train cops in all 50 states. I'm on the road almost 300 days a year. And all of that package that we put together for my feds, for my Spec Ops, for my military, for my local police, has got direct and powerful application to our individual citizens. And we will give them these tools, and books and other things will be available to them. We'll lay the foundation that will not only inform us, but inspire us. That's why the cops keep bringing me back. That's why I'm on the road 300 days a year with Every Day Full. It's not just information, which is vital, but also to believe in who you are, believe in what you do. There's nothing wrong with you because you're a sheepdog. There's nothing wrong with you because you carry a gun and you prepare for the worst. Any more than there's something wrong with you because you got a fire exit at work or a fire extinguisher at work. So it's all about mental preparation, putting the tools together, forewarned and forearmed. And we're going to talk about the fact that the enemy will probably strike again. 10 years ago, they murdered 3,000 of our citizens. What are they going to do next? We don't know. Nobody knows the future. But the one thing they do to every nation they mess with is they come attack the schools. They attack the school buses. They attack the children. These are terrorists. They don't piss in your water. They don't sprinkle doo-doo over your skies. They come kill your kids. And we'll cover it around the world. We'll have available the books by leading experts that outline these tragic events and what we can do to keep our own children safe. But ultimately, if the enemy keeps attacking, and once we leave Afghanistan, all bets are off. The Russians were in Afghanistan for 10 years. As long as Russia was in Afghanistan, they never laid a hand on Russia. Once Russia finally left Afghanistan, then all bets were off. Then they began to give Russia pure hell. So as long as Russia was in Afghanistan, they held off. Interesting historical parallel that has potential for giving us insight today. If the enemy attacks again, what are our options? One option is the British model. The Brits, for 50 years, have tried to confiscate all guns. England's a little bitty island nation with complete control of their borders who pursued this policy for 50 years, and they can't keep guns out of the hands of criminals. Last year, England had one of their all-time record gun massacres as a taxi driver rampaged through the countryside, murdered a dozen, wounded a dozen. It's an abject failure. Option D is the Israeli model. What's the Israeli model? Train and arm lots of citizens. Train and arm citizens. We pray we'll never need armed security. We pray we'll never need armed security in every school. But if we do, what's your plan? And the only possible action is the Swiss model, the Israeli model, to empower and train our citizens. It's America. We're going to take away rights, we give you more rights. We give the right to be a gun. Dozen states have been shall issue concealed carry states since 9/11. Only one state left with no concealed carry, Illinois. I train Illinois sheriffs. I train Illinois chiefs associates. Last year, Illinois Sheriff's Association, at my instigation, supported the concealed carry law for the first time because they know Illinois has a big honking bullseye on their chest. Heartland America, president's home state, no concealed carry. It's a no-brainer for the bad guys, and they know it. And so this business of empowering ourselves, giving citizens the right to carry weapons, protect themselves, protect their families, but with rights come responsibilities. The responsibility to train yourself and prepare yourself.
So, Colonel, that brings up a good question. Most of us do, when we train in ideal conditions at a range where we have good lighting, there's a target that's stationary. What is your thought on that? Does that adequately prepare people for a real-life situation?
Well, there's degrees of preparation. Obviously, just the very act of having a gun is a step in the right direction. Shooting at a stationary target is a step in the right direction. But you want to seek higher levels of preparation. I've got a motto that I've run through my series and through my fiction books. It's slightly crude. I apologize. Simply says, piss on golf. Real Americans go to the range. The golf course is a willful and deliberate misuse of a perfectly good rifle range. If we took the kind of energy and time that we spent with people on the golf course, the sheep out grazing on the golf course, if we spent the energy and time we spent on the golf the American way. 100 years ago, when our ancestors got together in America, I guarantee you they never had a golf scramble. The big event whenever Americans got together, the shooting match, the turkey shoot. Throughout our history, that's what it's been. So there's levels of preparation. If you take in the initial step of getting a gun, then God bless you. Take the next step. Get the concealed carry permit, and then get the training. And the people who are sponsoring the seminar that I'll be presenting at, Learn to Carry, these are world-class trainers. You're just so incredibly blessed to have these kind of trainers in our area who can bring our citizens up to levels of performance. And some of the things we have today are paintball and force-on-force training. By the way, paintball and airsoft is pretty good at bringing us up to new levels in training through force-on-force, reality-based training. The gold standard is our simunition-type force-on-force paintball training. All of these things are all tools that we use to bring ourselves to levels of performance never seen before in history.
Okay, well, Colonel Grossman, we do need to take a break. We hope you can stick around through the commercial break. We'll take a break here, and when we come back, we'll continue talking with Colonel Grossman. You're listening to Target Talk on the Big 550 KTRS.